ready with me while I tell you how I got express kidnapped in New York City. I know it may sound off that I'm telling this story while I'm doing my makeup, but it was a few years ago and I need to tell you because it can be prevented. Basically, I was coming out of a nightclub. It was like 4 a.m. or something in meatpacking. It was called the VIP room. This was back when going out and meatpacking was really cool. For those of you New Yorkers, you'll remember Avenue, One Oak. I was not drinking, luckily, so I was fully aware of what was happening. We didn't have Uber back in the day and I was trying to get a cab. Finally, I see this big taxi van, the ones with like the sliding doors. He was like, "Do you have cash? My meter is not working." So I was like, "Yeah, I have cash." So we get in the car and he takes me to my apartment. We get to my address and I luckily opened the sliding door. I had a $100 bill in my bag and I just gave it to him. I think the taxi was like $30 and then he gives me 20 back. So I was like, "Hey, I'm missing money. I gave you a $100 bill." And he's like, "No, you didn't. You gave me $50. He obviously thought I was drunk coming out of the club, but I was not. And I was just like, "No, I gave you $100. The guy starts going crazy and he starts racing down 2nd Avenue. He's swearing, screaming, looking back, saying, "I'm gonna take you to the fucking ghetto." He's like, "You're gonna see, I'm gonna drop you off in the middle of nowhere." I'm in the back of the car shaking. I called 911. First time ever in my life that I called 911. She's like, "Ma'am, you have to stay calm." She was asking me so many questions. She was like, "There should be a taxi registration number. Please give it to me." The taxi did not have a registration number inside the car. And the guy's still speeding down. She was like, "You're gonna have to jump out of the car and I'm gonna send a police car to pick you up wherever you come out of. Just don't hang up." I thought I was gonna pee my pants. Like, how is this happening to me? And remember, the sliding door was a little bit open. Thank God. It's like one of those things that I'm like, I can't believe it. Otherwise, he could have just locked the doors and that would have been it. And because it was like 3 or 4 a.m., there wasn't much traffic and he was like crossing down through the red lights. The 911 lady was like, "You're gonna have to find a time when he's slowing down and you have to jump out of the car." Luckily, I had thick heels and I literally jumped out of the car. And the lady was like, "As soon as you jump out of the car, look at his license plate." He immediately turned to the right so I couldn't see anything. I was just in like a state of shock anyway. A minute later, a police car came to pick me up. I also think at the beginning they thought I was drunk because I was so nervous. They weren't like taking me seriously, but then they realized I was normal, I think. And we did a police report and they dropped me off at my apartment. And my doorman's face when he saw me being dropped off by a police car. Oh my God. I've lived in New York City for 14 years and this only happened to me once. So I think it was just like a freak accident. But yeah, the lesson is if the taxi tells you his meter's not working, that's suspicious. And also always check that they have their taxi number plate. And please don't drink too much because if I had been drunk, who knows what would have happened to me. So yeah, I hope this story helps someone.
Am I the arsehole for telling my fiance that my son has to be a part of the wedding? Story time. So I have a son from a previous relationship who we'll call Alan. He is 11 years old. My fiance Steve and Alan get on really, really well. And after 5 years of being together, Steve proposed. Alan was so excited, bless him. He even started looking at different wedding cake flavours, which is so cute. Planning was going really, really well and everything was set in place. Until one day, Steve came to me and told me that he wanted his nephew to be the ring bearer. And we had already agreed that this would go to Alan, but I said it would be fine, we could just have them both do it. Steve looked at me really funny and said that he didn't think that Alan would fit the image of a ring bearer. I obviously got really, really angry and told him that Alan would be a part of our wedding. He got really, really wound up and told me that the men in the wedding were up to him. So I turned round and said, if Alan is not in the wedding, then there might not be a wedding. I stormed out and took Alan to get ice cream. Whilst we were out for ice cream, Alan kept telling me how he thought he'd look really handsome in a suit when he's standing next to Steve. And this broke my heart. I texted Steve and told him that I was going to take a couple of days away and stay at my friend's house. But then his mother, the mother-in-law, texted me and told me that I was being overdramatic and then proceeded to tell me that my son doesn't need to be a part of the wedding if Steve doesn't want him to be. So who do you think's in the wrong here?
I laughed when my bridal makeup artist judged my bridesmaid's makeup, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong for this. I'd arranged for a professional makeup artist to do mine and my bridesmaid's makeup for my wedding day. One of my bridesmaids said she didn't want to have her makeup done because A, she couldn't afford to pay for the service, and B, she just thought that she'd done her makeup better as she didn't like the techniques that my makeup artist used. I tried to change her mind multiple times, but she refused. So the day of the wedding, we were all getting our makeup done. My bridesmaid was obviously doing her own. She comes up to my makeup artist when she's finished with a proud look on her face and said, "See, I did it myself." My makeup artist then said, "I know, I can tell," and I kind of laughed at this. I didn't mean this in a nasty way, I was just kind of laughing along with my makeup artist. The rest of my bridesmaids were quite natural and basic, whereas the bridesmaid who done it herself was quite glam. My makeup artist then told me that she couldn't stand pretentious people who claim they can do their own makeup in front of a professional, and no offence to my bridesmaid, but that makeup was more prom-like than bridesmaid-like. I agreed with her and I told her that I had tried to get her to have her makeup done professionally, but she wouldn't listen, and the makeup artist said she felt sorry for me. Nothing more was said of this, and none of the other bridesmaids said anything at the time either. It's been a couple of days and I've received a "we need to talk" message from my bridesmaid. All of my other bridesmaids have also jumped to her defence, saying that I was really rude and shouldn't have judged the way she looked. And nor should I have let a complete stranger mock my friend. Explained to them that I wasn't being malicious and I was just laughing along with what my makeup artist was saying and agreeing that there is a difference between amateur and professional makeup, and this was very obvious on the wedding day. They're still saying, however, that my behaviour was trashy and I owe my friend an apology. I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong for this.
Let's talk about the girl best friend. The girl who knows him best. My first ex-boyfriend had a girl best friend, and I was like, oh, I don't really know if she should be talking to you like that. And he always gaslit me into thinking that there was nothing going on. And then the day we broke up, he told me that they had been talking for our entire relationship. But nothing tops my sixth ex-boyfriend's girl best friend. This girl got me good. I had never experienced a girl best friend who actually wanted to be friends with me, so I really, really liked her. Until she home-wrecked my relationship. Now, I'm pretty sure my ex would tell her all of our problems. So, she was probably taking notes as to how she could infiltrate the relationship for months. One day, he went over to her house to see her family, and they went to a gas station together alone to get orange juice and chocolate. Ended up sitting in the parking lot for an abnormally long amount of time. And then the day after that, he called me her name while we were talking. And wouldn't you know it, after we broke up, they started dating. So you think you can trust the girl best friend? You cannot. And if you're a girl best friend who acts like this, just date him already.
Am I the arsehole for not letting my siblings come to my wedding? Story time. So all my siblings are significantly older than me, and I wasn't invited to any of their weddings growing up because they wanted a child-free wedding. So I of course thought I'd be an exception because I was their little sister, I was part of the family. My older sister Amy got married and she was the first to have a child-free wedding, and then everyone like sheep just followed. When she got married I was 10, so I kind of could see where she was coming from, but I was still really upset. Then my older brother got married when I was 12, and I obviously wasn't invited to that one. And then my sister got married when I was 15, so I was like, great, this is my time, I'm coming to this wedding. Because she had said that she wasn't going to have a child-free wedding. And of course, all my siblings chimed in and convinced her to have a child-free wedding. So she decided that she was going to cut out everyone from the wedding list that was under 16. Which obviously included me. And at this point, I got really, really upset that I wasn't going to any of these weddings. So I screamed at my sister and my parents grounded me for 6 months. 6 months. Then my other brother got married when I was 17. So I thought, surely I'm in for this. But not gonna lie, at this point I was past the point of caring and I was assuming that I wasn't gonna be invited for some silly reason. And of course I wasn't invited, so I just sent him a really shitty text message that said congrats, and I didn't say anything else about the wedding. The wedding was happening, I just stayed in my room all day with my now soon-to-be husband. So I decided to get a little bit petty, and since I'm now getting married, I decided that none of them were allowed at my wedding. But when the invitations went out and obviously they didn't get one, they turned up at my house. Ariana, what are you doing here? So I very simply explained, you didn't want me at your wedding, so now I don't want you at mine. I explained that it really, really upset me that I didn't get to see any of my siblings get married and now they should feel the same way. Their excuse. Oh my god, their excuse was that there was alcohol at the wedding and they didn't want any young, impressionable eyes seeing people drinking. And all I wanted was to be included in the wedding part. I didn't have any bother about the after party at all. How long have I had powder in my hair? I'm so sorry. My mum then started screaming like I have never heard anyone scream so loud in my life. She was screaming about how she wanted all of her kids to be together on a beautiful day. It's very ironic, Susan. I very clearly said that if they wanted to be invited for the wedding, I needed a very good reason as to why I wasn't allowed to come to theirs, and not just because of my age. Explanation: no invite. It made no sense to me why they left me out of literally everything up until now. Bit of an awkward silence. Then the truth came out. I wasn't actually their sister. I was actually their cousin. My jaw hit the floor. So apparently my dad was raising me, but when he passed away when I was 2 months old, they had no clue who my mum was. And that was when I was passed over to be raised by my uncle, so my dad. And when I was young, apparently I required quite a lot of attention. So my brothers and sisters started resenting me quite heavily. My brother Steve even went as far as to say that he hated me for that reason. My parents admitted that they were really ashamed that they had never told me. And I just didn't know how to deal with this, so I got up and left. Drama was too much for me. So what do you think? Am I the arsehole here?